So thank you everybody for joining us here at Take Action South by Southwest 2026. We're happy to be here with Let Music Fill My World and Artists for Action and Artists for Artists and Bands in Town and Music Managers Forum and all the other amazing partners here at In Cahoots. Thank you for joining us for 2 days full of impact, talking about the power that music has to create change. And the two big pillars that we're focused on here are talking about music education and also music industry education and mental health in music. So I hope that from this 2-day series, you guys take away some really important material, both as artists, as business people, as social impact heroes. There's a lot of information to intake. We also have incredible performances, everybody from Passion Pit to Blues Traveler to Five for Fighting. Make sure you stick around all day for the panels, and then at night we're doing showcases. We also have the John Lennon Educational Tour Bus here as well. So thank you guys for being here with us. What I really love about this next panel, besides all of the individual panelists on it are extremely accomplished in their own right, is that it's a panel full of women and one man. Which I really, really love because, sometimes it's you set up a panel and then you realize it's all guys and we don't have the female perspective. But this is different, and I love that so much. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Neeta from Music Managers Forum US, who's going to lead this panel fearlessly. Thank you.
And tirelessly and fearlessly and all that good stuff. Am I on? I am on. Hi, everyone. I'm Neeta Ragoowansi. I am so glad we're all here, and I'm thanking our panelists in advance, and I'll thank them at the end for giving us their time on this one. So, Neeta Ragoowansi, I'm president of Music Managers Forum US. I'll tell you quickly about that and something else towards the end. But our panel is called Music Managers, the New Power Brokers. So for decades, the music industry operated through a fairly centralized power structure of a couple of companies, labels, and that financed recordings, and promoters who controlled touring, and publishers who controlled songs, and artists navigated those systems with varying degrees of leverage. But today, the landscape looks very different. Careers are global, revenue streams are diversified, and artists are building businesses that span recordings, touring, brand partnerships, digital platforms, and direct fan communities. So in that environment, there is one role that sits at the center of nearly every strategic decision, and that is the artist manager. Beautiful thing. So what began as a cottage trade, where it was a person who would make things happen, has evolved into a global profession, one that increasingly shapes budgets and partnerships and long-term strategy and the teams around the artist. So, we'll dive into the various pieces of that. And, when we talk about managers, we're also talking about self-managed artists, many of whom are carrying those same responsibilities. And as they run their own businesses and careers, I want to make sure we are always acknowledging that the self-managed artist has to learn a lot of the same lessons and is also that influencer and power broker into the rest of the industry when they make those decisions on what companies to go with, what direction to go in, and all of that good stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do today is, sort of recognize that influence. What does it mean to hold that kind of power? What does it mean to be a decision maker in this ecosystem? Modern management today is really about that sort of leadership and leverage. And so before we dive in, I want to just tell you briefly, Music Managers Forum, we may have talked about it earlier, but for those who just entered into our audience, Music Managers Forum is a 33-year-old trade association for artist managers and self-managed artists, and we work around providing advocacy, networking, and education. I always encourage everyone to please go to mmfus.com and join our amazing community. We have 8 chapters around the country, about to launch a 9th. We have one here in Austin, New York, Nashville, etc. So please do get engaged in our community. We have lots of good programming, etc. I also serve as a president of the International Music Managers Forum. Just wanted to make you aware that there's a global umbrella organization that connects over 50 music managers forum organizations worldwide. And so it's awesome to connect into a global network. If you're a manager, it's really a cool thing, and to be able to find boots on the ground folks in different markets as you go out there touring or just want to do promo, et cetera, out there. Okay, so, that work that we do, we've spent a lot of time thinking about the evolving role of managers in our trade associations. So today we're going to explore this topic that I just described to you. So let's start with introductions, very quick introductions, because I know we have limited time and I want to dive into the actual discussion. Gabriel, can you just give us a quick hello?
Hi, my name is Gabriel Barreto. I'm a manager at Gold Village Entertainment, where I manage predominantly Americana artists.
Nice. Go for it, Aja.
I'm Asia Pecknold Smith. I'm a partner at Fort William Management. We work with artists largely in the independent space. It's an all-women-run company, and we're based in New York and Los Angeles.
Excellent. Welcome. Michelle.
Hello. My name is Michelle Fleischle. I own a company called Like Management. I've been a music manager since 1993.
Great. Hi.
Hi, I'm Mandy Aragones. I am the manager to hip-hop icon Slick Rick. We're based out of New York City, and I'm here. I'm happy to be here on the panel.
Thanks for being here. Excellent.
Thank you.
Hey, Julie.
My name is Julie Klein. I'm based here in Austin. I add a different color and perspective from this panel. So I'm not a manager, but I manage the managers. So I'm COO of C3 Management, and we have offices and locations all over the U.S. And some of the artists that we manage are 30 Seconds to Mars, Modest Mouse, Phoenix, Jack's Mannequin, and Band of Horses. So.
Love them all. Amazing roster.
Hi, I'm Jess Tomlins. I'm from Neon Coast Management, based in Nashville, Tennessee. So we're mostly country artists. I work on Kane Brown, Julia Cole, who's a Texan artist, and Kat Luna, who's a Latina artist. And our company really cares about also global, I think all of us do, but global impact. So even though we're based in Nashville, we don't just stay in that Nashville bubble.
Welcome. Thanks for being here, Jess. Thanks to you all. Okay, so first question. Anyone can jump in on this one. Do you see yourself as the CEO of your artist business? And if so, why or why not? Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
The answer is yes, right? We managers run the business, but I guess we can add a little bit more flair to it. But not only are they CEO, I kind of just going to get geeky because I love metaphors. I think of manager as the nucleus of an atom. So you have your artist's vision there in the nucleus with the manager to drive the career together. And there's that gravitational pull, and then there's perhaps the electrons around the nucleus. So you have your promoters, your booking agents, you have your business managers, and all the other entities to help along with that career. But ultimately, the decision and the center of mass and gravity is going to be the manager along with the artist. So let's just take an example. Just what comes to mind is SZA, and with her management Punch. And when she launched, and that manager-artist relationship was disrupted when she released Lana, that she struggled, and it wasn't clearly successful the way it was in the past. And so it's kind of evidence that a global successful artist can actually have disruptions in their own career when that atom is disrupted.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, Asia.
Can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, we were talking earlier. I have a
Switch.
It's in our case, it's kind of artist to artist. So some artists prefer for you to operate as CEO. the level of canvassing and the information gathering is so overwhelming at this stage that for a lot of artists, that's a relief to put someone in a position where they're the decision maker. You're coming to the table, you've done your due diligence, and you're making the recommendations, you're helming strategy, and that is, for some artists, preferred in partnership. And then with other artists, they prefer to get really granularly into the details on the business side. And that is, it's another proposition. So it really can vary from artist to artist.
That's true. Gabriel, yeah, I know you want to jump in on this.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I operate in both spaces, I think, because so many of the artists who I currently work with have been running their own business for so long that they are their CEO, and maybe I'm more of a COO. Like, I'm helping operations day to day, things, we always use the thing, keep the trains running on time. But I have to take my leads from the artists, because if they've been doing this longer than I've been working with them, they know their business better than I do. So if they're delegating certain decision-making to me, it's an education for me. So it is artist to artist, and how you do, I always say that the hardest thing in a day is the gear shift, when you're doing the exact same thing for different artists, but you have to do it in different ways. And I do think that is, you are at the top of the pecking order when it comes to a small business in that way.
Yeah. Michelle, we were talking backstage a little earlier about whether that management leadership role has changed through the years or evolved. And, it sounded like what I was hearing is that it has expanded in terms of sort of deals, decision making, or just a bunch more stuff to do. Can you just sort of expand on that?
Well, I was feeling more.
Take that one.
I was gonna say,
Just so that there's more on this side, because there's more people.
I was just saying that I don't think the job has changed at all. I mean, we wake up and, I'm inspired by these artists that we've ended up working with for different reasons, and I feel like that has never changed. It's just now the role and the options and I always had to get people on before there was even a fax machine. Okay? I was like calling venues and adding people to guest lists and going out and creating opportunities for artists in the same way. Now, it's just, there's just so many more things. I mean, obviously with social media, there's a whole another game change and everything evolves, but at the core of it, my job hasn't changed. My drive, what I wake up and do every day. So I think that's what I meant by that. Yes.
Okay.
I want to jump in here. I also, I've been a manager for 26 years, and I feel like, let's just say 15 years ago, that entities, platforms, brands really focused on the artist. Now, brands, platforms, entities, they're also focused very much so on the manager. The manager is almost kind of star-like as well. So where the focus was on the artist, no, it's like, who's the team? What does the team look like? Et cetera, et cetera. And as an artist manager, we're just as valuable as the artist.
Yeah, I was saying that, because the decisions you make, like what service you decide to choose, it can really make or break a startup, for example, right? If you choose them and champion them in a sense, because they're helping your business, hopefully. But it really makes a difference to then, who gets to play in the industry and who doesn't sometimes. And
we probably do it to each other, right? We see what the value of this manager is bringing to the table, how do they look, et cetera. Where, like I said, back in the days, per se was focused, very artist focused.
let's go into marketing for a moment about how you make some of the decisions around, because that's one of the huge pieces, right? I would go marketing and licensing. Those are those two big ones. And how are you sort of, Jess, on a day-to-day, how are you working through decisions on what platforms to use, what a marketing decision may or may not look like?
Yeah, I do think that falls so much more in the manager space maybe than it used to. I feel like, especially with labels losing so many of their staffing, it's harder and harder for them to have the creative bandwidth to help with creative brainstorming and execution. So I feel like a lot more is falling on the manager for artists that are with major labels, and of course with indie artists, it's always there for us to help with. But and I also think like because so many people are losing their jobs in labels, sometimes they're scared to go out on a leap. Like in our management company, like we have in any meeting, no bad ideas and brainstorming. So we're always trying to, even if you're saying the silly thing in the room, because the silly thing could get you to the great thing. And so I think like with the artist vision and then like with a creative team and execution, that obviously helps a lot of marketing decisions. And on a granular level in terms of like platforms and what we're choosing to use, I think it also changes depending on the artist. Like Julia has been like managing her own career for years, and she had a song going viral, and she was like, "This is my time to have a team." And so, like in a period of like 2 months, towards the middle end of last year, she put together a team. And so, whenever there's like a platform decision, like we're actually like talking about it as a business, like. She's going to release an album. She's never had a full service e-com company and D2C. And so, like, we talked through all of those decisions together. Whereas, like, Kat Luna, she recently became independent. And she was just like, it's overwhelming. She'd always been with a major label. She was like, can you just help me find a distro? And so we just picked the one that made the most sense with the time we had and the resources we had. And we went for it. So I think it's, again, like those levers that we were talking about before, whether it's like quick decision making to help the artist's career grow at the pace it has to, and then making the best decisions and weighing up the pros and cons of different decisions that we can make so that we can help put the right people in their world to make things move.
It's funny just to hear this from another side, because it is, the labels will come at you with a marketing plan, and it feels like a copy-paste situation where I'm seeing, oh, you're spending the exact same amount on Meta, exact same amount on YouTube, exact same amount on Spotify Marquee. There's no innovation, and then you go out and see the ocean of these digital marketing companies that have, sometimes shady approaches, sometimes really innovative and honest approaches, and you're like, well, okay, we have to figure out what works best for each artist. And one of the things that my management partner and I, Allie, who's seated right there and should probably be up here, we figured out was we were dumping, just for tour marketing, right, not even record marketing, we were dumping so much into Meta that was not translating into tickets, advance sales or walk-ups even, and then we started putting money into bands in town. And it changed overnight. Like, I'm not just shouting them out because they're a sponsor here, but they are literally one of the most important tools we use when it comes to tour marketing. Now, when it comes to album marketing and pre-sales, I've started to try to say, like, no, let's drive the traffic where the artist is actually monetizing as well. Not because, the passivity of being able to skip through an Instagram ad we all do it. But I think with YouTube, because it's a money generator for the artist as well and for you as the manager, it has become the thing where I'm like, all right, let's take a little bit of that, $1,000 from that Spotify spend and put it into YouTube instead, especially for creating great video content that showcases who the artist is, what they sound like, how they perform, what you can expect to see when you go out and see them live. So that's been a big, change for us in the last couple of years.
Love it. Any other feelings on marketing right now and the decisions that go into that? Good? Yeah? Okay.
Well, I was going to say, I think Gabriel's so right. I mean, it's so hard to find people on tour. You just don't know. You're lost in the feed, blah, blah, blah. But I just want to remind, and all of that is very true, but also just leading with the artist, exactly what they want to do, how they want to see their campaign, and what's additive, and how to, like, really understand what they're trying to achieve. So, yes, we need to look at everything. And 100%, I feel, bad for all the ads being made, and then you're like, God, are people even seeing it? Do people even care? Do they skip? But, I'm sitting next to somebody who just threw like an amazing baseball tournament for her artist, and like that wasn't going to be anybody's idea besides Kevin's.
Right.
So
on the creative marketing side, like, leaning in with the artist and figuring out, like, the label's not going to come, with those ideas. Like, what is going to be resonant for the artist and their audience?
My boss would hate me to mention this, but it was years ago before I even worked in music where I saw the Shep Gordon doc, and I saw his little viral advertising thing for Alice Cooper and Piccadilly Circus, where he had the billboard truck and was just kind of leading people like a Pied Piper with Alice on the back to the show. And I'm like, you can get creative like that still. You can still do some weird activations. That's what they're called now, I guess. So.
Yeah. So, Mandy. I'm going to go to this question because there's so many short-term opportunities, I'll call it, that are that are coming forward, and in sort of managing an iconic artist like Slick Rick, how do you think about sort of the short-term opportunity balanced against the long-term value and control?
Well, I would like to say, since Slick Rick has been around for 40 years, what we've done in the last 10 years is move away from nostalgia and put him in the position of leadership and understanding that the nostalgic piece of him will always be there. But how do you peel that back and say, okay, these are his stats, this is what he's accomplished, but how to position that so that he is what any artist that's new is looking to be. So we really back away from nostalgia a lot. We don't use the word old school. There's just certain things that are like no's for us. And that's how I'm able to position him as a leader in the culture, even though he's been around for a long time. It's kind of like an ice pillar, and also display that you can be successful long-term in hip-hop, but how do you get there? So every little crumb, every little step that we do leads you to this kind of pillar that he's pretty much, his pedestal that he's kind of on, in a very humble way. Was that okay?
In a very humble way.
Is that okay?
I love it. So in the strategic plan, any of you can jump in on this. It's sort of on the list, not on the list of questions, but in the strategic plan, how are your roles involved in sort of, creating that long-term plan of fulfilling the artist's vision? And Julie, I'm curious, just sort of on a COO level. And it's also important because I want to understand, I want our managers in the audience to understand the importance of having a COO in their company, like what, almost to make that distinction on how that works.
Yeah, so I guess my job is more of designing the architecture and the blueprints of how C3 is gonna behave, and building the culture around that. And what's really been important to me as a leader is fostering a culture that is collaborative and sharing of ideas through marketing campaigns, right? And where I bring people in to pitch their ideas and new innovations, new ideas. And along with that, part of the culture that we've established is given uninhibited autonomy to the manager. So they can come into C3 management and still fulfill the vision of the artist in their own way. I provide the structure, whether that's health insurance and all that stability, so they can actually work on the long-term careers of an artist versus chasing short-term opportunities just so they can collect a check, because when is their commissions getting paid? When are they going to get paid? They need to put food on the table also. So we just have that infrastructure in place to provide them to actually be career-driven for the artist.
And in terms of any of you, if you think about your strategic, do you sit down when you sit down with an artist and sort of build a strategic plan in a kind of organized fashion, or is it more instinctual? You're feeling each other out through it. How does that look?
I think it has to be both. I mean, we've started to do a lot of long-term planning now, like what is the 10-year plan? What is the 20-year plan? What are those milestones that we're hitting and what are we aiming for? But you have to be reactive and responsive, because as we all know, like this landscape is shifting like every other week. It changes. So you have to have something that you're aiming for. The vision is there. You're thinking long-term, but you're also nimble and you're able to respond and shift course at any point.
I want to just jump in really quickly. I also feel that a true artist is not one-dimensional. So just trying to find that ecosystem of what makes them tick. Yes, sometimes initially it's the music, but I always feel like underlying there's always something else there that they're interested in, and really tapping into that once they've established themselves on the music side.
Exactly. There's the micro strategy where it's okay. How do we market this tour? How do we market this release? And then the macro of what's okay. You played the Opry. What's the next move? How do you build on these growing opportunities? You open for XYZ. How do we parlay that into the next great support slot? But then to speak to what Mandy was saying, we have a client named River Shook, formerly Sarah Shook and the Disarmers, who at the end of this run of the Disarmers, we got a call at the office from a movie producer saying, hey, we see that the band is ending their tour in Kentucky. We're shooting the finale of our movie here. We'd love for them to play the house band in the movie, and we'll sync some songs for it. I was like, okay, we got to figure this out. We did, and then what ended up happening was, okay, now we have developed a relationship with the editor, the producers, the music supervisor. The artist has developed a relationship with the director, and then it was like, okay, how do we make sure this movie is now premiering at Toronto International Film Festival? Get the artist a ticket to that premiere. Make sure they continue to be in the space with those artists. And off of that, River was like, I want to act more. I'm like, great, so we're going to find some short film work, some this, some that, some the other, so you can keep doing this. At the same time, a month before the film came in, they were like, I would like to write a memoir about my 10 years building this band, my struggle with substance abuse, leaving abusive relationships, all that stuff. Within a week, I had texted 2 other artist friends saying, hey, do you happen to know somebody who did a literary agent? Found one. Already off to the races with book proposals and memoirs, and it was that diversify the portfolio really quickly because they're not just one note. Another client is now going to do a poetry book and is painting on, what is he painting on, Allie? Like plywood? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say I was at a very big management company called Silva Artist Management for 14 years. When I left there, I kind of was in that little bit of burnout, and Tenacious D, my band, the band that was with me, Silva, left to come with me to jump into the unknown. I started my management company on the side, but I was talking to this agent, Tom Windish, and he had, at the time, it was a Windish agency. He wasn't part of, what it's become. But I was like looking at all of his bigger artists and thinking that, they were getting picked over by, if anybody's here from CA or WME or et cetera. But I felt bad because the developing artist is like such a hard thing to figure out. And when you have that true partnership with your team, with an agent and blah, blah. So I went over to work with Tom, and because I'd come off of this, run with the Foo Fighters and Sonic Youth and Nirvana Estate and blah, blah. So I'd worked for Gary Shandling on the, for a couple of seasons. So I'm an LA kid, so I knew a lot of people, and I was like, why don't I just talk to your artists and see about those types of things? Why don't I just help, and make some of those connections, because those things, ultimately getting people together, getting creatives together in any way is usually, super beneficial. And so it was pretty fun. Then he sold to Paradigm, and I was like, no thanks, I don't work for big companies, so I'm a small.
Well, and I think also cultural significance is so important in the longevity of an artist's career, and keeping their vision in mind. But internally at Neon Coast, we have our own quarterly meetings where we set goals for ourselves internally, and what we find then is within the quarter, you might find that you met your goals, and you might find that you didn't. Then you can reassess why or why not, why did they happen? Why did they not happen? Is this actually important anymore? Has the artist's drive for that thing or passion for that thing changed, and it's okay to pivot? Or we're talking about it, so things are constantly in our mind to be able to make connections further down the line. And sometimes we found that we talk about something in a meeting, and we hoped it might be the next quarter or the quarter after that. And then in a year's time, we achieve it. And it's so exciting because we've been talking about it for a while, and it just sort of lingers there. So, but if you don't speak it, it's not in our consciousness to be going for it. And then we can help make something happen. And I think especially for cultural moments, and Kane Brown, who I work on, he really loves sports and cars. And so now he's been getting to do a bunch of stuff with the F1. And then it's so cool because he gets to marry his love of cars with his love of music, and then he gets to perform at these events, and then they're really cool cultural moments. He played the F75 celebration in London before the season started off, and no country artist does stuff like that really, So I don't know, it's just, I think that helps with the long-term strategy as well.
And I want to say it keeps the artist happy since performing is so repetitive.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing. So how does I know, Michelle, the collective influence of managers, like where do we see that in 10 years? What is that going to look like for us?
I mean, I don't know
As a
exactly.
trade.
I wanted to open that up, but I feel like for me now, like we're always so in our lane. Like managers are just so in their lanes. We're talking to our people, right? Like that's putting out the record, or our merch person, or whatever. And the best, honest for me going forward is having collectives like this and having managers to call and just to rely on everybody else, because we're in it, we're doing our thing with our people that are pretty much, like you said, giving you basically the same marketing proposal, like copy and paste. And I get it, there's so much time and for so many things. But talking with the other managers has been an unbelievable resource and value, and something that should be protected. And, a collective is important. We're in a female management, WhatsApp with with women all around, the world, honestly. And we'll say what do you think about the merch rate? What do you think about merch, the merch sellers, and how do you feel about pricing at the table and paying, or do we know a tour manager here? And it's just such a, I value it. I just wish we had more time to just do that, with intention. So I think the future for me feels like more of that. And
I'm so glad you said, I mean, as I travel the world meeting managers, and I find these amazing communities and groups, a lot of them on WhatsApp, where it's that peer-to-peer knowledge sharing. And, people are like, oh, MMF should have that. And absolutely, we're growing our digital platforms to connect everyone, especially on a global network level. As I said, so when you get into other markets, I just want to understand. I mean, I know I was in the Middle East a few months ago, and I was an American performer, and I was with their management team, and they just needed to understand, can my performer say the word Bible and Jesus Christ on stage? And it was here's some Saudis in the music industry who can tell you what's working, what's not. So I was in the Saudi Arabia. And it was of course he can, and it was beautiful. And then I saw him perform in front of tens of thousands of people. And it was great. But it was even just those important little moments of cultural diplomacy that need to be understood better as artists travel through the different markets, and understanding that it's wonderful to have that. But, going back to, in a way, it's as a trade association, we rely upon all the communities of people who are connecting to each other to learn from each other, because it takes a village. It takes all of it to make sure we get together and understand what's happening. I mean, at MMF, we work on in the U.S., just there's 14 plus different pieces of legislation that we're always, working through on advocacy side, and knowing that there's groups of folks to be able to, work through all of your communities is a beautiful thing for us to say, how do you feel about this? How do you want us to proceed on this one? So if ever you think about advocacy stuff you're seeing, feel free to share that with us.
I think you really touched upon what's really important is the collaboration, and that's what I'm trying to achieve with C3 management and within our own space and own managers as well. I think also in the future, as AI and technology becomes a lot more advanced, things are going to go a lot faster, and we're going to need immediacy. And to have these connections to get our answers, it's going to be far more important. And as the labels potentially drop off in their importance, as their marketing churning, the same strategies. To speak on the power broker part, our managers' importance is actually only going to increase. So let's just, take for example, if there's a viral moment in Tokyo at 2 a.m., we can then through technology respond to that immediately, and we'll be the ones that's responsible for doing that. Whereas labels in the past have always been bottlenecks where we have to get permission for whatever that is. But now I think all the decisions is going to come with us, and we're so connected with the careers of the artists anyway. It's going to be a lot easier and faster.
Absolutely. I was just wanting to check on our time. Oh, there you are. I was looking for where are we? 5. Thanks. Thank you so much. Amazing. Sorry, go ahead,
Just
Asia.
to also speak to that, I think collective bargaining and influence is so key as far as what we do. We are not the big three. We're the many thousands of management entities that operate in somewhat of a siloed and fractured capacity, unless you're in these, MMF is so valuable for that reason. And that, in large part, like in the next 10 years, like that is what will help gain that level of influence that is necessary, like advocacy and influence.
Thanks for saying that.
She said it last night too to me. Just saying.
It's true.
Hey, it's like I know we're here at this Artists for Action sort of panel, and I wanted to sort of I do this sort of topic at a variety of conferences, but I wanted to sort of put this out there, but also to get to this very point about how can we take action as being sort of the leaders, and having what does that responsible leadership look like to you? Let's actually narrow it for a quick focus on mission-based causes. Do you all sort of work with your artists on how to choose a mission-based cause? Is there any thoughts on how?
Can you, by mission-based cause, do you mean charitable work?
Yes, charitable work. Yeah.
So
Any kind of
we
action.
work with a client named Caleb Cottle, and he raised he had a tour he canceled a tour last year in the middle of Hurricane Helene. He was in he's from Western North Carolina. He was in Oklahoma, and he canceled the tour. He drove back with his band, many of whose houses and people were directly affected. And on the drive back, he basically raised $15,000 in mutual aid, found out what people needed, shopped for them, and then went around for the next week delivering them things. And then he's been doing work with the Western North Carolina Food Bank, and he basically made a deal with his distributor saying for every 100 records sold, I need to be able to donate 1,000 plus meals to the Western North Carolina Food Bank.
It's beautiful. How did he make the decision to, like, was
Well,
it just right in front, they came to you, the food bank?
No. He was already familiar with it just because he knew people who were in need, and then he came to Allie and I, and he was like, here are 3 charities I want to partner with. When it comes to album sales, which one do we choose for the album sales? When it's like, well, the one you've been working with most directly is the Western North Carolina Food Bank, and that is the one that affects your direct community. Yes, there's Blue Ridge Conservancy, there's Yadkin River Preservation, there's so many other beautiful things that you can support, but if that's the one that affects the people in your area, that's, it's the most local is the most international. You see somebody helping their people, you're like, oh, this is going to inspire me to help my people as well. And then we work with another artist named Chris Pierce, who he's a folk singer out of LA, and this is a guy. His mother's white, his father's black. He grew up in Pasadena, had a cross burned on his lawn when he was 8 years old, and his house invaded by white supremacists. And he's grown up with that experience, and he wrote a song called Khalif Browder about Khalif Browder, who took his own life after being essentially wrongfully imprisoned because of bail reform in Rikers Island. Anyway, this is a long story to say. The song was sent to Khalif's brother, Akeem Browder, who runs the Khalif Browder Foundation, and now we're doing a similar partnership of we found the way to connect the dots, get Chris and Akeem to talk, and he was like, this is such a beautiful song, it's such an honor to my brother, let's find a way to make sure. And Chris was like, well, I want the money from this track to go to the foundation. I want to do anything I can to support that. So, they lead, I follow, kind of thing.
I think it's something where like the artist's authenticity and story like usually is like at the forefront for charitable things. Like Kane had like times of homelessness as a child, and he does a lot with the Boys and Girls Club of America, like throughout the country. Like it's authentic to him. He wants to tell people that their life can change. Kat is bilingual, and part of her mission is like trying to help people feel represented in the country music space if they're not already. And like she got to go to Seacrest Studios in Miami, which is the first bilingual Seacrest Studios in America. So like I feel like it's usually like the artist's vision and staying true to that is what ends up making the decisions of like what charitable paths that they go down.
Are you?
I would just add, I could go on. These are great stories, and I have so many of those, but we also, our company called has a foundation called it's called Totally. We're a California company, Los Angeles, but Totally has in the past, coming off of what Windish Creative was doing, is looking and valuing different artists that have an idea that they want to start, and feeling, across anybody, they can come to us and we help get it funded and actualized. So beyond the artists themselves, Tenacious D are incredible, charitable human beings,
Absolutely,
etc. But that's just another arm of our company.
It's beautiful. And I know. She's like, but I'm like, wait, I can take 5 more minutes. Anyway, but it sounds like Yeah, I mean, it starts with the artist's vision, and yeah, what is authentic to them, and it pulls into it. I mean, I have so many charities that come to us and say, "How do we get this artist or that artist onto our cause?" And I'm like, do you know their story? Have you have to sort of start with the artist going, will your mission-based cause resonate with them? Is it part of their story somehow? Then we can go to the managers and say, help. So
They always want to help. I'll just say that.
You definitely want to stay on schedule? Okay. I want to thank our lovely, amazing panelists for their contribution to this topic. And thank you. Thank you for your time. It's been wise and wonderful. And thank you.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it for this great panel. These are the power brokers you have right here, music managers. We're going to get a good picture of you guys up here. Yes, yes. One more time. Give it up for the power brokers. Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you guys for joining us here at Take Action South by Southwest 2026. We have 2 full days of programming, panels, performances, master classes, discussions. My name is Matt Reich. I am the co-founder of Artists for Artists and Artists for Action. We're here with Let Music Fill My World, talking about 2 days full of impact, music powering change. And we're here to talk about music education and its importance. We have a lot of different activations here for you. We have the Music Matters Challenge, where we're giving away from over $335,000. You can learn about that outside at the Let Music Fill My World tent, or just scan the QR codes on the screens when the image comes up. We have some really fun and exciting artists that are performing here, both on this stage and on the outdoor stage. We have Passion Pit, John Popper, Blues Traveler, Five for Fighting, Neil Giraldo, Catch Secor of Old Crow Medicine Show. We have a master class with Slick Rick. We have a lot of really cool and entertaining programming for you here throughout the day. We're also going to be giving away some of these beautiful guitars right here. So make sure you scan the QR code on the screens. And we're happy to be here with you. Making sure you grab some cold brew, some coffee, some treats, and our panels will continue.